much of doubt hanging around, God knows. 'Cause darling, there was nothing right when all you seem to do is lie. Those days are gone, I'm walking tall while you're alone. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better. I'm better off. When I look at what I've done now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off. And baby, you don't belong. Your love was cold, heart made of stone. I'm just fine, I'm gonna shine, I'm alright. I'm celebrating my liberation. I'm moving strong, I'll get it done. I'm might be shaken but not stirred. Just a lesson that I've learned. And so it goes, tables turn, and you're on your own. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things you took from me, I know that I am so much better. I'm better off. When I look at what I've done now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off. Baby, you don't belong. I know I'm so much better off. Now, baby, you don't belong.
That's right. I'm so much better off. Oh, there you go.
I didn't know we
You
started.
remember
I
that
was
from
still
back in the
dancing.
day? Huh?
I said I didn't know we started. I was still dancing.
Oh, you were. I saw you in the back chat. You were doing your little. So cute. Oh my goodness. So this is my first time using StreamYard, you guys. So just bear with me, and hopefully everything will go off without a hitch. Today we are talking about an article that I saw in Business Insider of all publications about another examination of why Black women are, do, believe, act, whatever, right? This one was, why are Black women not finding their matches? Why are college educated Black women not finding their matches? I think we know why. I mean, we have an idea. You guys saw that I put in the chat, there was a poll there where I was asking you, do you think it's important for Black women to find mates in college? And last I checked, it was around 80%. Let me just make sure. Let me put my glasses on. Oh, wait, no, it's down to 76%. But it's still, that's an overwhelming majority of us that believe that Black women should look for mates in college. The article was interesting, and I pass it on to this lovely man right here that you see in front of me, Themis. You and I kind of talked a little bit about it, and I know you have some ideas. We didn't talk about, like, I don't think we need to. I think, like, you know, we'll just have this conversation. I know you have your opinions. I certainly have mine. But as two college educated, young, beautiful Black folks, I'm not so young anymore. But anyway, I think we can discuss our experiences, and maybe you can share kind of what you observed as well. So I want to share a little bit about the article. The article is really long. I'm so happy to have Themis joining me. Themis, so I wonder if people know what your name, Themis and Thoth, means. Like, I don't think people know. Like, I didn't, and then I looked it up months ago, and that's how I knew. So if
What
you
did you find? What did you do? You didn't report back.
I was gonna wait to surprise you to tell you that I was like, so so based on the definition, Themis is a Greek for order, you guys. In the Greek religion, personification of justice, goddess of wisdom and good counsel, and the interpreter of God's will. So Themis, why did you name yourself Themis and Thoth?
Well, I had help. So initially, I was going to do a sort of podcast with two people, but it was going to be a reflection of one of my favorite god, Thoth, which was in an Egyptian deity, and this was about writing and intellect generally. Themis, on the other hand, is order, but it's also the Greek god for good counsel. You got that correct. It's also the book that we used to study when we took the bar. Well, at least when I took
Oh,
the bar.
okay.
So it's the name of the legal study book or a company that creates the book for studying the bar, one of them. And so I used it, I passed, so Themis was always there. And so I put the two together. Yeah,
Wow. Well, I love it. I love it, especially now that I know.
I'm
And then
glad.
it makes so much sense now because of how you run your channel and how you approach topics. So it just totally makes sense that, you would have
I
that.
appreciate that. Thank you. And the pink pill suits you perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So going back to this poll, Themis, I want to ask you. 76% of the respondents, and I think and so far we've had 269 votes. Do you think it's important for Black women to look for good and stable mates while in college? 76% said yes. 24% said no. Where do you stand in all of that?
I stand on. So initially, when I actually voted, by the way, I voted yes, because my natural inclination is to say I want everyone to be put in the best position to win. And I think you work better as a team. I think the kind of, you said stablemate, so that's why I said
Mm-hmm.
yes. But
Mm-hmm.
then there are people I think who might not want to ever engage in relationship and all that kind of stuff. So I was distracted by that reality, but I think generally we work better together than apart. So I went with yes.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Ralph Richard Banks, he wrote the book called His Marriage for White People, and he said that securing your mate is one of the single most important indicators for your future, for your wealth, for your, how if you can pass on wealth. Like,
Yeah.
that means it's a really important thing. If we're going to go by that and say, okay, we're going to say that that's true, then it should be a priority, especially when you talk about women coming from a community that doesn't have a lot of generational wealth. We don't pass things along like other two. We're not necessarily educated on how to do that. So having a good, stable partner who is educated and your match, if it's the single most important thing, why aren't we focusing on it? Like, why is it that it's like when I went to college, I was told, just get your education. You don't need to talk to those white people. You don't need to date anybody. You don't need to be going to parties. You're just going to get the education. So if it's so important, why did my parents and millions of other Black parents tell their Black daughters the same thing?
So I think I'm on my channel, I get dragged for this because I give parents a lot of grace. And I think you don't know what you don't know, right? And so the idea that you're going to college I think from our perspective as Black people, I think it is an opportunity for upward mobility, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
College is for a lot of other things, and I get into those things on my channel, but I think it's generally for upward mobility and get an education, get a job, and whatever happens after. And
Mm-hmm.
so, not having seen sort of the way in which universities are used to assortative mate, right? To find people who are similarly situated with you, both academically and socioeconomically, I think we just miss opportunities, not just in dating and networking. We miss a lot of opportunities in university, but we cannot ignore the elephant in the room, which is that Black women don't date out, and there are not a lot of Black men in universities. And the people who are there tend to be moving around because they are the top in terms of access to academic resources. So there's a ton of competition. Black women, I don't know if they're competing, at least in terms of trying to get a mate. I think they're focused on trying to stabilize their own life and learn and get a career. And so I think there's a lot of grace to be given, and I'm not someone who traffics in shaming as a
Right,
general
right.
matter.
Yeah, no, I mean, and here's the thing. I'm not saying that what our parents told us was out of, ill intent. I think it was very much just focused on just trying to get the best for us and understand what the priority is. Like, remember what your priority is going to college. Your priority is not to party. Your priority is not to, hang out with your friends all the time. Your priority is not to like skip classes. So I think that we are our parents, and now that I'm also a parent with one college graduate and one in college now, um, I think about what I was told and the different thing that I told my daughter, my second daughter, who's now in college, because of all the things I simply did not know. But I want to also bring the fact up that, because you mentioned networking, how we don't do it. It's a big problem, and it's not, it actually starts in college because and it carries on to the workplace. But like you mentioned the whole networking thing. I think that a lot of Black people, I think I think Black people operate under a sense of uh, if you follow the rules and play fair, then and work hard, you'll just get like that's kind of the old school thing. It's like, okay, follow the rules, do what you're supposed to do, and then these things will come through your hard work and through your work ethic and all that other stuff. But the fact of the matter is that's a con. Like the whole networking thing, it's about jumping to the front of the line. It's
Yeah.
about it really we think that this thing is somehow fair. It is not fair. People hire who they like. They promote who they like. They give inside information to people who they like and have spend time with, et cetera, et cetera. So this whole
Um,
idea, go ahead.
no, I agree, but we hopefully at this juncture understand that America is not a meritocracy, right? Not in the
Hmm.
strictest sense of the word.
Hmm.
But you also have the word grace is going to come up a lot. And I say it just to remind myself. But I think in a way, I can understand, like, if people don't know you and what you know, then there is no opportunity. So it's not who you know only. 'Cause networking is important, but it's who know what you know, right? or who
Mhm.
know that you know what you know. And so
Mhm.
networking is more than friendship insofar as it's about getting in the rooms and making yourself be known and that which you're capable of be known, it, in an effort to be in people's mind when they're thinking about the next step or whatever else they need to do. So I think that's from a networking perspective. And there's just so much we don't know. And how could we? We are participating in a very new arena about sort of what it means to be a young professional in the corporate world. That's one, and what it means to be a young student trying to become that young professional. And I think a lot of things I took for granted, I realize now that not a lot of people know. And I started doing these seminars where people would come on and we'll talk, and questions come up where I'm like, oh, that's second nature. And I'm talking about certain things about how you keep in contact with your professor, how you go to your professor's office hours, make sure that's a thing that you do throughout the year and not just during the exams, and trying to facilitate some kind of relationship. And as I'm talking and people are asking questions, I'm realizing these aren't like well known things like networking in university,
Mhm.
forming relationships. They're not known. And I cannot be angry or upset or anything or disappointed really when people don't know certain things because you just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I've done so much of what I've done with the pink pill. Like, I mean, shameless plug, but it's just right there. So if you guys don't know, I'm Chris, and you are on the Pink Pill channel. And it's called the Pink Pill because I've created some really amazing courses specifically for the elevated Black woman experience. And one of those courses was the Pink Pill for College. The Pink Pill for College was everything. That course has everything that I wish I would have known that I had not a clue. Not a clue. Um, my parents didn't know to tell me. And I was just oblivious. Like it was going all around me. Like the networking that was happening, the dating that was happening, it was going on all around me. I just didn't pay attention. And what we don't realize, what kind of keeps us behind the eight ball, is that because we don't couple the college education experience with the social and networking experience, because they're like, I'm here to get an education. Like, we don't understand that in most cases, you know, listen, let me Themis, I don't know if this is you, but I only sent out an email for my first job while I was in college. After that, it was just who I knew. I'd never went through like a jobs.com or anything like that. I never sent out blind resumes. Did you?
I Well, I can say I've never gotten a job by sending out blind resumes. Um, all my kind of jobs were from a friend of a friend, and that's kind of how my social group function, honestly. It's everyone knows someone who knows someone else, and we keep in contact, and so we just hit the spider web and it reverberates whenever we need a job, and it we ended up where we need to end up. I don't think I've ever had gotten a job where I just applied. Like, I've never just applied for a job and gotten it and just
Hmm.
went.
Hmm.
um I've gotten interviews, but I don't show up because by the time I got an interview, I had already been offered a position somewhere else. To be fair, I've only had three jobs in my entire life. And so that's also something that I have to be careful of. When I went to university, when I was in uni, at any level, actually, undergrad, grad, law school, I never had to work. And so I do take some caution in that. Um, the reality is, a lot of people have to do a lot of other things outside of school when I could just literally focus on school. But no, I never had to like cold apply to anything.
I have a couple more questions about your college experience. We're going to get to the dating part in a minute, but
Yeah.
the reason why the article in the Insider was inspired was because the viral TikTok video. I'm going to attempt to try to share my screen so I can show you guys the TikTok video, and then we can talk about it. I want to know, like, when I play it, I want to know, like, in the moment, whatever it is, tell me in the chat how you feel about it. Like, what's your initial, as you watch it, what feelings arise as you watch it? So,
Love your background, by the way.
thank you. It's real. It's a real background. It's not a green screen. Okay. Hold on here. Let's see.
Hit.
Okay, can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me start from the beginning. Make sure the volume is on. Okay, remember, I want to know.
Do you want the sound to be on? Is there music playing?
Is there music playing right now?
No. In this video, is there music? Because if there's music, you can
Yeah,
just
there's. Yeah, no, there's
I wouldn't
music. Mhm.
hit the thing to mute it. We don't need the sound.
Okay. All right. So, and when I play this TikTok, tell me in the chat, like, what is your first feeling or your first thought as you watch this? Okay. So, yeah. You know what my first thought was?
What?
How sad it was that Black women usually cannot identify with that experience when it's kind of implied. And I'll say this because I know my ex-husband is white, and both his mother and his sister married very, very well. And it was just an implicit knowledge that you knew going into college, it was the best opportunity to get the kind of ideal man that you want on the ground floor. And it was always part of the experience. Like, it was always just, um, it was always just implied that, of course, that's what you do. You college is the one time probably in your life that you will be rubbing shoulders with titans of, future titans of the industry, the next, the future big businessmen, the future tech geniuses, and you guys are all kind of at the same place. Like, you guys are all at the same level where you have access to each other. And I feel like perhaps maybe non-Black people understand that a little bit more than we do, obviously. What do you think?
My feeling is, I feel like that's packaged well, and I don't disagree. My feelings are more complicated. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what happens. Honestly, because that's literally, that could have been my undergrad, that could have been my law school. It wouldn't have been my grad school because it wasn't in the US. But that's like, that was expected. But the truth is, from my perspective, watching that, I'm like, okay, yeah, well, unless we are going to create some kind of cultural shift, Black men aren't in these universities, like, as a general matter. Like, it's
Mhm.
just not a thing.
Right.
And so, because they're not there, if the stories we're being told about how how do I put this? About who goes to universities and who doesn't. And then we also understand that Black women are the least likely to date and marry out of their race. It then makes sense that they wouldn't be there. And so the question becomes, from my perspective, um, one, is this what Black women should be doing? I don't know. I'm assuming you are going to tell me this part. But on the other end, it's even if they wanted to do it, who are they going to do it with?
With.
Um, and what are we saying about the competition, and should they be engaging in this kind of competition? Those are questions that I will never attempt to answer. I don't think it would be my place. I like stats, I like research, but beyond that, I am very terrible at sort of prescribing, particularly when it comes to individuals' ability to access relationship and therefore economic resources. And I think this is where you might come in more, and the ladies in the chat might come in more. But I
Uh,
see it and I worry that we are on different sides of the spectrum where white women are there to get married, but also what they don't show is that white men are also there to get married, right?
mhm.
And in my group, we are watching attorneys marry attorneys, attorneys marry accountants, attorney marry people who are in the military, who are in finance, attorneys marrying people who are doing well, right? But then I go on TikTok or I talk to people that are not in my social circles, and men are saying, well, women, your education doesn't matter, your job doesn't matter. And it's
Okay.
like, we are not doing well enough for you to be saying that.
And
Um,
exactly.
so what the video doesn't show is that for those white women, they were white men proposing and valuing them in the space. For
Mhm.
Black women, they're by and large alone in very white spaces.
Mhm.
And so how do we even have this conversation? Throwing
But
it
you know
back
what?
to you.
Honestly, it's not like Black women going to HBCUs are doing any better finding husbands
You
there.
know, there's not a lot of men in those HBCUs unless we're talking about Morehouse.
Yeah, but if even if there's not a lot, then there should be a ridiculous percentage from a ratio standpoint of men getting married out of college in
Yeah,
Morehouse.
but
Even if
the
it's
issue
not,
is,
even if it's still, you know, 5 guys to every 7 girls at these HBCUs,
what was the
say how the
stat?
Howard University, like
I heard you on this. Is it true? I already know the answer. I'm just asking you that the more success for every other race, the more successful a man becomes, the more likely they are to get married. In the
yes,
Black community, the more successful a man becomes,
the
what?
less likely.
All right. So even in an HBCU, I wouldn't expect the women to be
Mhm.
getting married unless they're marrying each other. Like,
Right. And that's the thing that sucks. They're like we have so like it's like on two fronts. Like you can't even go to a historically Black college and find you a Black husband and do hashtag Black love. I mean, it's like that. It's not if it's not happening there, it's not going to happen anywhere.
yeah,
Not in any real numbers, right?
yeah,
Like if
yeah,
that was where it was going to happen, then that's where it would be, right?
yeah, yeah. I'm
Um,
qualifying everything that I'm saying by saying for people who want to get married, just
yeah.
FYI. But yeah, the stats bear out in favor of marriage. For me, how honest can I be?
Oh, you can be extreme, be as honest as you like, honey.
That is not to say I would have
Everybody loves
lied.
you here. Be
Yeah,
honest.
this is not to say I would have lied. Otherwise, it just means I wouldn't have shared. Um, Watching the stat and watching people jump into marriage sometimes frightens me. The thing is, I like marriage and I like love and all of that, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also always saddened by the fact that the divorce rate is higher in the Black community
Yeah, it's
than
like
the marriage
80%
rate.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
And so, like, when you have stats like that, like, just saying get married is not enough. It's who are you marrying? Why are you getting married? How do you prioritize other things outside of the lovey-dovey feelings? Um, like, how do you have these conversations in a way that is productive? Like, when you have people saying it's not the quality of the marriage, it's that you got married. Like, things like that come up, and I I don't know. Like, I'm always worried that like the message is you are wrong woman for not being married now. And it's
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
yeah, some man has to propose to her. And also
Exactly.
she
Exactly.
has to hopefully date someone who is on her level or at least willing to help in pushing forward whatever these people are building together. And you just mentioned Ralph Richard Banks, and he points out how likely women are to be, Black women, to date down economically, to date down socially, to date down academically, intellectually. And the problem with that is those marriages are doomed to fail.
Hmm.
Those friendships are doomed to fail. When you bring someone to your firm's party and they don't know how to interact with the group around them, as a woman, you've been taught skills on how to cope with that insecurity on your own. As a man, going with your woman to the firm party, I don't think men have developed what they need to develop in order to take the back seat in a meaningful way. I was reading a study that said when women downplay their income when their man make less than them because of the impact it has on the man's pride, and likely those men tend to cheat. So the men who have the least tend
Hmm.
to cheat.
Are more likely to cheat, and also men whose wives are the breadwinners are also cheat,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is crazy. um all right, so before I get into the article, Themis, you read it. I saw some major glaring errors in there about
Oh, me
the
too. Oh,
assumptions.
me too.
I was just like, so you guys, we're going to go over this article because while the premise of it is true, the reasons for why they say the premise is true, I listen, Themis,
I do have.
did you have questions like I had questions? Because I had questions.
I There's a few parts where if we're reading through it, that's good, so I can point them out. But there are parts. I had a question, but there are two parts where I'm like, if I were reading this from my own sort of um, understanding and personal growth, I would have stopped because statistically, it's incorrect. And I wanted to ask you if you knew the person who wrote the article, because I was like, you're probably not going to like me after. I'm still going to be honest about
Hmm.
why
No,
I think
you
it
got to
was.
be honest. Listen, actually hoping we have two different point of views. Like, I want to get the full spectrum because I'm kind of a traditionalist. Like, I believe that after knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen and seeing how non-black women are ahead of us when it comes to relationship and securing suitable partners, is in they pursue that in conjunction with their education, and it goes in tandem for their overall goals, and it's something that starts from very early on. We are behind the eight ball because a lot of us do not prioritize the relationship aspect, whether it's cultivating friendships, building a network, or
Oh my, I
you know,
disagree with you.
dating.
I
You
disagree
know,
with you so fundamentally on this. I actually think,
okay,
I
okay,
think that women prioritize it. I think there has to be someone on the other end also prioritizing it. The issue, I think, and I don't think we disagree, I think Black women prioritize relationships with Black men. Um,
yes, hmm,
and so I don't think Black women don't prioritize relationship. I think they see the personal as political. And because of that, there is a discomfort dating anyone who is not
right,
Black.
exactly.
And I've had anecdotal, but the research bears this out. I've had conversation with women who are very acutely aware of their positioning and that they might never be in a relationship. And they talk about how hard it is to date within the culture, but they also say they're not about to date out. And so, because of this reality, if you call it losing, yeah, I mean, in the stricter sense, you're right. I'm never going to argue against that. But also, I don't think Black women are losing because they don't prioritize relationship. I think it might be with whom they're prioritizing
Oh,
relationship that might be the
absolutely.
problem.
Well, I say this all the time. Black women literally will walk into the cage with the key in their pocket, close the door to the cage as they walk inside the cage, take the key out of their pocket, reach around the bars, and lock themselves in. That's what it is to limit yourself because the personal is political for us. How many times did they tell you you can't be pro-black if you sleep white? You can't be you can't really be for your people if you're not receiving a melanated, deeply melanated African descendant penis. I mean, like
Yeah,
the criteria for us to prove our dedication to the race is whose phallus we receive.
yeah.
Do you
I
find
mean,
that odd?
I do. I do. I particularly when on the other end, black men get to sleep white and be pro-black. But I also think it would be wrong to ignore that every racial group prioritize dating within said race, right? So
Mhm.
white people prioritize dating amongst each other, Asian, like everyone.
But do they go around and say, girl, make sure you get you a nice white man when you go to college?
They
Whereas
don't say it. They don't, I mean,
I
let's
could
be
hear a
clear.
black,
They might not say it overtly, but they will say it. They
yeah,
will.
well, it's implied. That's
Yeah,
my point.
yeah,
So it is implied that you just do that. They're part of the dominant, you know, society, and it's sort of implied and assumed that you're going to marry within the dominant society. Um, but I just for us, I feel like the pre we there's two things that cause unnecessary burden. The first thing is to prioritize the education at the expense of the building up of personal and professional connections. And the second one is
can
the
I
pressure. Mhm. And the second one is the pressure to just date a black guy. So when I went to Loyola Marymount University, that's where I graduated. And while I was there, I did not prioritize cultivating any kind of relationships except for maybe with like my current teacher. And if I was on in small groups, I cultivated relationships because we were working on projects together. But I was not part of what my ultimate goal was in finishing college. And let me tell you what the black girls were doing when I was living on the dorms versus what the white girls were doing. The black girls were in Doheny dorm. If any of you guys know about Loyola Marymount, you'll know about Doheny. In Doheny, giving each other roller sets and perms on Friday, Saturday nights, while the white girls were going out on dates, going to parties, doing this, doing that, the other. The black guys were doing the same thing and not dating any of the black girls. It was like, okay, say there was like, I'm just using ratios. Just say like there was 25 black girls and 12 black guys. Maybe, no, I would say, let's say 10.
8.
I know, 8, right? And 8 black guys. No, none of those black guys, and I remember this, ever had a girlfriend. They never tied themselves down with anybody. They dated everybody, but they never settled on a girlfriend. And then and probably because the 8, the 25 black girls were going after the same, 8 black guys. So
Yeah.
it's like you got 25 women who are sort of pressured into allowing for this option, again, walking into the cage and locking it from the inside, saying that this is all I have. So this is what I'm, if I'm going to do this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to look at anywhere else, and I'm going to be so competitive with the other 24 Black girls. I can't form good relationships, friendships with them,
Wait,
because
I'm a
they
pause.
are
I
so
have to
deeply
stop you
my
there.
competition.
The
Go ahead.
fact that they think they were only competing with other Black women for that Black man is actually funny.
Yeah.
But, but you and I disagree on this, I think. I don't know if we do, because I don't think you think in binaries. So I think you must also believe, in my mind, that you can both get your education, get your career, and also have a relationship, right?
Absolutely. I think you should do both. Like,
Yeah.
please do both.
I think I hope you and I don't differ here. But when it comes to women, Black women specifically, I don't dislike the prioritizing of your own success over a relationship. We don't have the resources internally
Mhm.
to
To
for you not to
prioritize
do.
one over the other.
Yeah. So I think you should do both and try. And I think the reality that every one of my friend, none of my friend, and I don't like this, but all of them have a partner who's a lawyer. Like they all partnered. So I don't think you should settle for dating down. You should look across you, but don't give up on your own success in an effort to get a relationship, because these I fear that even when we're talking about opening up your option and making sure you find that which makes you tick and all of that, all people are going to hear is, oh, I need a relationship, and not hear the open your options up part. And then they're now fighting for it. The carrot of a relationship is dangled over these women's head to have them do all kinds of foolishness, particularly in our community. So that's my worry.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like Black women need to learn how to walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, that's what these other women are doing. They're prioritizing their careers, and they're also on the lookout for, that potential relationship. Um, Again, I can't even tell you how many times I've counseled Black women who have said I've prioritized my college and career for the last decade, and now I'm 30 and I've never even been on the first date. A
I
first
just
date.
I
Like, and
so
and like,
I
you got it. You can't tell me that that's not important. That's not a
no,
part
I'm
of
not saying
your
it's not. I'm
development.
with
That
you,
and
but like as
emotional quotient. That, you know what I mean. Like, you can't say that that's like not important
I'm
unless you're
not.
just. Mhm.
I am close to being a feminist, but I don't think I am. Um, it sucks though that like I, as a man, get to like fully dedicate my life, and you obviously women are different to my job and work, and it feels like the burden on women to do all this work is just like I get you have to do it, but it's just so much. It's so much. It's like you go to school and you should be able to get your education. You should be able to go for success. But yeah, you should be able, if you want to get a relationship. And it sucks that it feels like, and it's not you, it's like just generally, it's like, where is your man, where is your man, where is
Oh,
your
I
man?
know. Yeah, I get. Yeah, I mean, I do understand that, like, the whole "where's your man?" That's why you're single. That's why nobody married is used to weaponize the relationship challenges of Black women, and it's usually by the people who are imposing those challenges on them,
Yeah.
saying these things. So I do understand that, but if you take all that away, if you take all of the 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 criticism, everything, all that, the fundamental thing is that in terms of wealth building, in terms of, and you always, like you said twice already, our community can't afford to, not prioritize being successful and being skilled. But can our community also can our community afford to have more children, outside of wedlock where one person is raising them? Can the Black community continue to afford unstable family structures, high divorce rates, cycles of poverty? The fact that Brookings report that came out that Black women have a net worth of $5 when they pair with their phenotypical partner. I'm trying to be very careful here because I'm back on YouTube and I'm not trying to be in no mess, y'all. I am beyond the mess. I just want to say that. So, can we really, you say we can't really afford to not have the skills, but can we afford to continue to not have healthy, strong relationships where our children are well cared for, not just well cared for, but like have the opportunities and the doors opening to them, that we have an opportunity to build wealth so we can live in safe neighborhoods, have our children go to good schools, live in safety, and create wealth through home ownership, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that we can pass on? Can our community really afford to not think about relationships?
No, I think we should think about relationships. I think this is why I'm not opposed to divesting and swirling and anything, because ultimately, I think like what I've seen is that Black women are very focused on relationship, like to the tune of going on a man's podcast to be degraded in front of
Oh,
the audience. So
Lord.
I think Black women I think they're just focused on the wrong people. I think the people who need to be focused on relationship aren't being spoken to. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Let me say, I think Black men do not prioritize relationship at all, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah. Listen, let me tell you something. I totally get it. Like you said something earlier about how white women prioritize the relationship cultivation, but their counterparts are also prioritizing that. That is not happening in our community. And you have the double whammy of Black women just being resistant to, expand their options. Yes, it's getting better. Yes, we've seen the growth. Just go outside. I'm in San Diego. If I go outside right now, I'm going to see, every time I go outside here, Themis, let me tell you, I'm in downtown San Diego. It's like, this is the Pacific Ocean right behind me. And every time I go out, if I see a Black woman, she is not with a Black man. And vice versa. When I see a Black man, I don't see him with a Black woman. Like when I see it, I'm like, oh! Isn't that crazy? Like what? I'm like, oh!
I went to coffee with a young lady that I'm mentoring, smart, successful young lady. We were at the coffee shop and she saw this guy and she was like, "Oh, he's hot." And I was like, "Oh, go talk to him, whatever." And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that." And I was like, "That makes sense. So you as a woman," in my mind, I interpreted it as you as a woman, you don't want to make the first move. Fine, got it, whatever. So I was gonna do it. I was gonna go over there and say, "Hey, how are you?" Blah blah blah, and like do an introduction or whatever. Because I don't care. I don't have a dog in this fight. And she was like, "No, no, no, don't do that." So we are walking back, and I asked her, "Hey, why didn't you want me to do that? Like, what's up?" And she said, "Yeah, I don't know if he dates Black women." And I was like, "Wait, what? That's a Black man." And this is the same lady, by the way, who said that she would never date out, but she also recognized she's limiting herself in the way that, at least in her mind, Black men aren't limiting themselves, right? But she's limiting herself, and I think we are in a place where it's just unless we unless we're going to force people to see and own up to the realities of dating, it's not about to change anytime soon. But that moment, I think, made me sad because I am recognizing that Black women, I think part of why we've done well enough, we're not doing well, but well enough as a community, is because Black women are trying, and they're fighting, and because they see the personal as political, and because they're engaging in the writing and they're engaging in the social justice warriorship and all of that, because of that is why we're doing well. But not we're not even doing well, but we are even able to go to school and fight and got the Crown Act or whatever. But I'm pretty sure it's tiring. Like that has to be tiring. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. That's tiring.
Well, we're gonna pull up the article because here we are,
Yeah.
like an hour in. We're gonna pull up the article, but before we do, I want to try something. Like, because you always do these fancy things with your lives, Famous, and so I'm gonna try this now.
I struggle through it. I promise I struggle through it. Go ahead.
Because I was using Ecamm before, and it was just like, oh my god, there's just too many bells and whistles on this thing. I couldn't do it.
Oh no,
But
this is easy. This is
I'm
fun.
gonna take a quick break and see what happens when I do this.
The pink pill is the pink pill now. Put your piggies up now, up now, up. Live well to the extreme now. Put your pinkies up now, up now, up.
Hey, it's Pinky. You're on the Pink Pill YouTube channel. Be a love and like, share, and subscribe. Pinky's up.
Wow, it worked!
It works.
Yay!
Period.
It worked!
By the way,
Thank you.
before we continue, FYI, I'm not giving dating advice. I'm literally looking at numbers and talking about numbers. So I just want to make that clear because apparently I'm getting dragged for giving advice.
No, I think that you have to couple with the current realities, but also challenge the psychological and emotional barriers, so that you can make the change. Because listen, before I say anything else, there are 591 people in here, and from my last look, we only have 261 likes. Come on, you guys.
Oh, give the video a
I
like.
mean, listen, like we're not here for the mess. Like literally, I'm gonna be doing more videos and I'm gonna be posting more content in the future, but it's really gonna be focused on us, you guys. It's gonna be focused on our development. I think that many of you, including myself, are just ready to move on from the conversations of just, what the fuck black men did today. I love the reason why I love you, Themis, is that you cover such a wide range, and it's always focused on like good analysis and and also just thinking things through and not trying to throw fire bombs just for like. I think that I love that you focus on talking about solutions, but it's more so holistic. And so that's kind of like where I want to go with things. I think that if you just keep yourself in that space, it hampers growth. Like if we can't look at ourselves and be accountable for the things that we do or what we can do better, and we're always focusing on the other person, that means that you don't have to do anything. If it's everybody else's fault, then there's nothing you need to do, right? Somebody says, Pink Pill, Chris, you look great. Are you still doing Pilates? Yes, I am. Yes,
Pilates.
indeed, I am. Okay, so let's go to this article and let's read it. I want to read a couple paragraphs, Themis, and then I want to like there's something already that I'm like, this is not right, and I pulled up some stats to prove that it wasn't right, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Are you think share?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Here we go. Found it. Why aren't college educated Black women meeting their match? So here's the bullet points, you guys. Bias and stereotypes lead to college-educated Black women facing greater challenges in the dating market. Black women are among the highest educated female demographic in America.
Wait, pause. Can we just say like a round of
Yes,
applause? Like,
yes.
period.
Round of applause for that. Students and experts told Insider that predominantly white college campuses don't create a fair playing field for Black women when dating. Okay, that's an interesting choice of words. Is it the college's job to create a fair playing field for anybody dating? I mean,
No,
does that
but
seem
to blame
strange?
them for it is also strange. Did you see the author of the article go up?
The author of the article, let me go up to that. Brianna Holt.
Yep.
Okay, so it's Brianna Holt. I can't tell. You mean there's some Black girls named Brianna. What you trying to say, Famous?
No, no, no. It was a black. I know. Well, I don't know this person personally, but I
Mm-hmm.
know of her writing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I'm going to say. Continue. I'll
Wait,
explain
wait.
it.
So what's the general theme of her writing? Oh, come on.
I
Oh,
don't.
don't be like that.
No, I mean she's a journalist, an author, but she's very into intersectionalism, and
Mm-hmm.
I think, at least for that's what I gathered from other writings from her, and there is a lack of accountability that comes out precisely when it comes when she brings up black men in this, she's going to blame. There's a number imbalance in terms of population size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to talk about the high mortality rate for black men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to blame that on police
Yeah,
brutality.
that's where I want. Don't,
And,
don't, don't, don't wait. Hold it, hold it, hold it,
all
hold
right,
it.
all
Just
right, all
hold that part because I actually pulled the stats because we're gonna stop. We're gonna talk about that little.
right. Okay, so we got the same thing then, because I was like,
Okay, all right. See, great minds and all. Because yeah, when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? Really?
yeah.
And
That's why let me just put this out. I think police brutality is a thing. It's bad. It disproportionately affects black people, but that's not the problem here.
yes, that's not the problem. That is not the problem. That's not what we're. That's not where we're going with it. But let's go back
Beautiful
to.
woman, by the way.
All right. The viral TikTok of white female college student graduates showcasing their engagement rings while waiting to receive their degrees sparked a conversation online about the pressure on young women at Southern colleges and universities to get engaged before graduation. The phenomenon has many names, but is perhaps most commonly trademarked as ring by spring or obtaining a Mrs. degree. While the terms can have a negative connotation, implying that a young woman's main intention in attending college is to find a partner, it sheds light on the very real experience of young white women finding their life partners on campus. It isn't comparable to the experience of college educated Black women who are 53% less likely to marry a well educated man with at least some post secondary education than their white counterparts. 53%. I don't think that's a shock though. For Black women attending college, we're really striving to level the playing field or become economically stable. So, this is what it sounds like she's saying. This is what our goals are. When Black women go to college, we're striving to level the playing field or become economically stable. So like that's the main reason that we go. And I have a bomb to throw about that real quick, Famous. And let me know what you think. Because I said this before, and I said it in my course, The Pink Pill for College. I know that for me, when my parents said, you go to school, you get an education, you don't worry about these boys, they weren't looking to like they weren't super concerned with my self actualization. They didn't say, we just want you to be happy, find yourself, love yourself, and la, 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 la. Like they literally told us that out
Wait,
of
what boys do
survival.
you think they were talking about?
I think they wanted to survive. I think most knew that most Black women are not going to just find a partner where she can be sort of move hypergamously.
I would
They,
venture to say they were speaking specifically about Black men because I don't think your parents were thinking that you were going to date a white guy. I don't know,
no,
but
but what I'm saying is, no matter what race the man, they said
no,
don't.
it matters. If they think you, as their daughter, is going to date a Black man and their experience of Blackness is different or the same as, then they're going to say, do not prioritize dating, get your education, because in some ways you can't depend on that man. And
Mhm.
so I think, I don't know, I thought I get a lot of no, I get not me caping for parents, I get a lot of nuance.
I know you've been caping for parents all morning, which is good. That's fine because I'm a parent. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's like if you think if I thought if like honestly if I thought my daughter only date Black men and was only going to date Black men or whatever, and I sent her off to school, I'm gonna say, hey, yeah, no, you're gonna get that education, you're going to get that job. Don't worry about a dating unless you're willing to date other people and people at the university. We just talked about how certain men in university don't settle down and they just want to quote unquote, I think the phrase is run through all the freshman girls and the sophomore girls. And it's like, yeah, no, 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 no. Get your
Mhm.
education, focus on your education. And I think, no, I do not have a daughter. It's my hypothetical daughter.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's I think it's good advice if you're sending your child to Howard or like you're sending your child in a space where you don't believe that there's going to be a ton of eligible people or people who are willing to settle down. Now, I'm not saying Howard specifically, I'm just saying a university where they won't have many options, let's say that. I don't know. I don't too hate the advice to like focus on your education.
No, I mean, and I think that the focus should be, but again, it's like you need to be able to walk and chew gum. Like I think
Yeah,
they're
agreed.
both interconnected. I don't think that one or the other should be exclusive. You should not just focus on getting your education, although that'll be the safest, and you shouldn't just focus on finding a partner because that's definitely dangerous. Like that's definitely stupid. But those two combined give you a level of um, of a trajectory in your future that I think that once Black women graduate college, get into the workforce, get into corporate, like that part of their emotional cultivation, relationship cultivation, oftentimes, a lot of times, is lagging. They're behind. They feel like, you know what? I haven't even been on my first date yet. I've never even had a boyfriend. Like, how many of you guys in the chat felt like you really just focused on education? You graduated, you got into the field that you wanted to get in, but did you feel like you might have been ill prepared for a romantic relationship because you didn't prioritize it? Did you feel like other people might have been further along in terms of where they were with their relationships, like moving with people that were marriage minded? Charlotte Williams says yes. Hey, Charlotte. Look, Themis, what do you think about this? You see all those yeses?
Yeah. I mean, most people are ill prepared to be fair. Someone asked if I don't think my daughter should date someone who looks like me. I've never said that. Sorry. Just wanted to point that out.
I know. I was like, listen, like part of my success in coming back to YouTube is to deliberately not read things in the chat. So
Oh, true. Good. True.
okay, so let's go on because there's lots to talk about. So for Black women attending college, we're really striving on the level of playing field of becoming economically stable. Our goal is to secure a career and in turn secure our families. Secure our families, meaning like help our parents, help our relatives, et cetera, says Angerica Bean, the Assistant Director of Howard University Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership. Securing a spouse isn't the ultimate agenda for us. That doesn't mean we aren't interested in it, but but it isn't the reason we are choosing to further our education at said institution. And the reason is to, again, level the playing field, become economically stable so we can take care of our families. Like the article in the third paragraph says, this is the main motivation. This is the main driver. You go to school because you need to make sure you're economically stable, because chances are there's not going to be a man that's going to help you out with that. And your family needs you to take care of them. Like, it says it all right there. Does it not?
Yeah.
Those are the three reasons Black women go to college. Level the playing field, become economically stable, because there's this implied and secure, help our families, provide for our families financially. And securing a spouse isn't even on the agenda. It's not the ultimate agenda. It doesn't mean that, everybody wants to have a partner. But if you're drilled into, this is very important. Like, if you don't do this, your life could be much worse, or your life could be very bad if you don't do this. So you be very top of mind with leveling the playing field and getting economically stable. And don't forget us, because you need to take care of us. Don't forget about your family. Don't forget about where you came from. We're all going to need loans. We're all going to need gifts. We're all going to need houses and your credit. We're gonna need you to co-sign loans for us. Like, is this not the Black woman experience? It's sad.
I think the burden is a lot, and I would argue too much.
Yes.
Someone once said, if you don't do it, who will? And I think that was said to me, but I'm thinking that women, Black women particularly, are taking that to heart, and they're making sure that they are there to provide for, obviously, themselves, but their family, an entire lineage. And I mean, it's truly, truly, truly unfortunate. And couple that with this kind of rhetoric against it. Um, I mean, it's kind of insufferable, honestly.
Yeah.
Because if Black women are to give up, what was it? I did a video on STEM and how like Black women are outpacing men in STEM, and it was just.
Wow.
Oh, you didn't know this?
No, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm low key just delighted and cackling inside, like, like, because
Oh, they came on my
these
channel.
conversations are Black women only go into the brainless dummy jobs. Isn't that
Oh
what
no, no,
the?
no! It is compared to, this is the only group where the women are outpacing more than a super majority. So over 60%, close to 70% of the Black people in STEM are Black women.
Woo! Woo! Woo!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I love
mean,
it.
our
So when they
numbers in
tell us that
STEM are low.
when we get meaningless degrees, I guess I'm sure they'll move the goalposts and say that there's
Oh, yeah,
something else
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
with us, but whatever.
yeah. It's not basket weaving.
Right. It's not flower picking, you know. But the motivation is important, right? If we're doing it because we bear a burden of taking care of ourselves and other people, making sure that we're economically stable because there is no generational wealth, there is no, gifts from mommy and daddy of a new condo upon graduation or a new car. All of those things are on us. It's a tremendous burden. Curls and Cupcakes asked, why isn't the pressure placed on the men? Okay, let's go back to the article. It talks about that. The marriage squeeze, whether dating to marry or focusing on dating at all is a priority for Black women in college. Uncontrollable factors like systemic racism, preference, and stigma in a society influenced by Western beauty standards play into the experience of singlehood amongst Black female college students. According to the
Wait,
book,
wait, wait, wait. See, this is also a problem. It says whether dating or marrying for dating, blah blah blah. priorities, uncontrollable factors. How is your preference an uncontrollable factor?
Yes, exactly. I mean,
I,
there's definitely that. I mean, the entire article leans to a certain level of helplessness, of pointing fingers and not really. I mean, it's the typical playbook of explanations, and it's kind of woke and listen, like if you're in the trenches, you know what the deal is. Like you really know what's going on here. It doesn't take much to figure it out if you've been in that situation. um According to the book, The Dating Divide, Race and Desire in the Era of Online Romance, young Black women, like most everyone else, want to marry someone who's similarly educated. But in a society where Black women are among the highest educated female demographic in America in terms of post-secondary education, and only 36% of Black male students complete a bachelor's degree within 6 years, the dating pool drastically decreases for college Black women seeking an equal on campus. I got to say something. We have an economic system that creates real inequality, in particular for the Black man. And so you have a situation as the marriage skis where Black women tend to be more highly educated than Black men because of the different ways in which a racist society impacts men versus women. Okay, this was the first thing where I was just like, what? It's like my ear cocked to the, my head cocked to the side. I was like, these Black women, can please help me understand this, Themis. Help me understand this, because this does not make sense to me. The same Black women who grow up in the same households with these Black men manage to go to college, and not only go to college, but be the leading demographic of women going to college. They're in the same households. They have the same parents. They have the same experience. They have everything is the same. Why is it then systemic racism? How is the system making it so how it's easier, making it seem as if it's easier for Black women to go to college versus Black men going to college? And is there a barrier? Because I don't see it. I don't understand that. Is there some special thing on the college application where it's like, oh, please check off if you're a Black woman, if you're a Black man, you're going to have to go through some special additional screening process? Like, as far as I know, for college entry, it's the opportunities are equal as it comes to Black women and men. Am I wrong? Like, where is the barrier?
how do I? So my system analysis concluded that because we can see something doesn't mean it's not there. I believe to my core, and also based on evidence, that racism does show up differently for Black men than it does for Black women. What I'm responding to is not directly your question, but this article, because a few paragraphs down, she will point out that being in school, universities, is the harshest for Black women. So the claim here that the system is keeping Black men out needs to be proven. But later you make not you, but the author makes the claim that in school, Black women are treated the worst, and the aggression, the inability to fit in. She points out that Black men are able to participate in the culture of universities where Black women are more excluded from said culture.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I think I'm gonna call cap, as they say, because
But I won't go that far though. I won't call cap because I don't know enough
no,
about.
there was a study that Essence magazine, I think it was Essence or Ebony magazine. You guys let me know in the chat if it was Essence or Ebony magazine. And it kind of made it made sense. It wasn't a shock, but it was a surprise, where it said that Black boys in high school have a better time faring with non-white people than Black girls do.
Yeah.
They have more friends. They have more access to social circles, like, because of athletics or just whatever, like the cool factor of like having the black guy friend, you know what I mean? Like, oh, my friend is like, I don't know, whatever. Darius, my black friend. Like they're able to, if that's true in high school, why wouldn't it be true in college?
My theory is that Black men in certain spaces aren't politically activated. By politically activated, I mean that in my experience personally, I most of the time when I'm in an all white crowd and there's another Black guy there, I am the only one who seems interested in even talking about race. Um, and the opposite is true when there is myself and a Black woman. Actually, if I'm in a room and there's a ton of people, white, Black women tend to come over to me. I have to physically make an effort to go over to the black guy in the room. And I think Black men are able to compartmentalize. I don't know this as a fact, this is me theorizing, but Black men are able to compartmentalize and know when are care about race and sociopolitical issues at certain times and then turn it off at other times. And so when they're in certain room and in certain spaces, they're able to blend in, so to speak, where Black women don't blend in. And they bleed, not all, but most Black women, even at Georgetown, sort of led with their community and wanting to go back to their community and thinking about their community and thinking about Blackness. And I don't think that's bad. I just think it puts you at a disadvantage in terms of connecting. But I'm also not interested in connecting with people where my Blackness have to take a back seat. I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
does
I
your
think it's
blackness
also on
need
the
to
other
take a
part.
front? But like, does your blackness always need to take the front seat? Like, I mean,
My,
do we always have to lead with our blackness? I mean,
I don't think you should have to. I do, and I will say that I've never had a problem making friends in wide spaces. So there's also that. I think there is a gendered aspect here also where, like, Black men got the right to vote before white women, right? So, like, I think there is a hierarchy and we cannot ignore the importance of gender. So I think Black women are actually at a double disadvantage by race and gender, right? And
absolutely.
it is harder for. Look, I think it's easier for Black men in university. I'm saying that. Let me just cut through all the mess and say it is easier to be in a university as a Black man than it is as a Black woman.
Right. And yet they're only in there 36%.
Well, there's a difference too.
And then
There's a
the
difference
author is
between, wait,
blaming
wait,
racism.
wait, there is a difference between access, and my analysis is not about access, but actually being in. So whether or not there is some kind of barrier keeping Black men out, I
I would like
haven't
to know
seen.
what it is.
Okay,
Like,
but I
what is
haven't
it?
seen it. I haven't seen it, but I'm unwilling to say there isn't. Let me just say that. Like,
I mean, because I really just do not understand. Like, do Black men have a special application process that is separate from Black women's
what
application process? Like,
I
what
feel like
are we talking
I
about
feel,
here?
not
You
you
get the
purposely
grades,
doing a week.
you got the
I feel
test
like
scores, you get in. If you know what I mean, like
Pink pill though.
I'm
Wait,
not
wait, wait.
understanding.
I feel like there is not much of a system analysis there, and it's if we're thinking about analyzing the system, it would be what happens in grade school to Black men and Black boys and Black girls, what happened in middle school, what happens in high school, and what causes one group to excel versus another to not, and then does this create a kind of taste in one group's mouth versus the other, or is one group being chastised for being a nerd, and by whom? And does that affect, and are they being put into different kinds of classes? And how does that affect their willingness to apply to school? And even if they apply, what does the application say based on this kind of history? I think that kind of analysis I have never done. and I should. Now I'm going to do it because I now want to talk about it. But I don't know, even for HBCUs, I'm saying generally, I don't know enough to just say, as a blanket statement, I'm unwilling to do it, to say that racism and the system don't affect the ability of Black men versus Black women to apply. I don't see it. I honestly don't. And that's just because I'm doing a rough look. But it would be unfair to not actually do the kind of investigative working without, like, for me to just say, oh, it's not there without doing that kind of work. Like,
I'm
I
not
don't
saying it's
know.
not there. I just would like to see it. I mean, where
True.
is
Yeah.
it? I would just like
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
see where it is.
Yeah. I mean, I
See,
could blame easily the culture where it feels like a lot of men penalize other men socially um, if they engage in school with meaningful academic rigor. And so there is a cultural um, issue happening about Black men's ability to get educated by other Black men, whereas Black women
so you think it's
are
peer
told,
pressure? So
yeah.
it's
I mean,
peer
some
pressure.
of that,
Okay, but
some.
whose
I
fault
don't.
is that though? I mean, because it's
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah.
seriously,
No, agreed. I
that's not
don't know
racism.
though.
That's not racism. Um um that's peer pressure, and it's like this. Oh my goodness,
No,
I'm
but I
failing
think
to find the
across
word.
the board, Black women have always kind of been ahead of everyone else, and then there's a copying of Black women. But across the board, women are outpacing men in terms of going
Hmm.
to school.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I'm uncomfortable saying something that I cannot back up statistically. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, um, Steven, look at that. I know. Somebody make a hashtag.
Y'all play too much in the
TMOOC. Hashtag TMOC. Okay, so let's go back to this because we're getting to this point.
Mhm.
We have okay, so we have an economic system that creates real inequality, in particular for Black men. And so you have a situation known as the marriage squeeze, where Black women tend to be more highly educated than Black men because of the different ways in which racist society impacts men versus women, says Jennifer Lundquist, professor of sociology and senior associate dean of research and faculty development at the University of Massachusetts. Boy, that's a long, and co-author of The Dating Divide. My goodness, her title is long. Issues like, okay, here's where I have the problem. Issues like a higher mortality rate among Black men, both for health reasons, but also systemic violence. No, not systematic violence, including police brutality, affects the gender proportions in the Black community. Okay.
Nope,
I, no, no,
no,
no,
that's a straight up lie.
no,
Before
no.
we go, here is that word. I'm giving grace to the author because every liberal progressive writing comes out of the same systems analysis and an unwillingness to actually engage with agency. I understand it. It feels terrible to really invest in this kind of work because it's going to boil down to black and black crime, right? And
Mhm.
I don't.
But we can't say, it's like you can't say it. It's like,
But the thing is, if you bring up mortality rates in the Black community and to Black men specifically, you can go and look at literally any report on this. It is broken down into different age group, but two age group condensed into one is going to be from age 1 to 44. The leading cause of death, can I say death?
mhm,
I said it.
wait.
The leading cause of death for Black men is homicide from age 1 to 44. You
Hmm.
don't write an article without putting that in there if you're talking
Right,
about the mortality rate.
right, exactly. I
And
mean,
you want
I
to
mean,
know
again,
something?
it's just this. It is this lack of accountability, like what you said. It's also just this the coddling. Like there's just the thing that really I think hampers particularly Black men, and also may keep them from doing things, is just the idea of being able to look other people in the eye and say, the reason why I can't do this is because of XYZ. Like the reason why, like it's like it in terms of locus of control. Locus of control is a psychological term that it refers to your mentality about how you affect the world. So when you have an external locus of control, you believe that all these external factors have an impact on your life. In fact, the external has more impact on your life than actually what you do to impact your life. An internal locus of control, that means you believe that you have, yes, these realities exist, but you believe that you have some control over how you move through the world, how your outcomes are. You believe that you have influence and power to affect the outcome. So when you have an external locus of control, you believe the world happens to you. If you have an internal locus of control, you believe that you happen to the world. And the idea that particularly Black men, so not all, but so many of them have allowed for the greater society, the greater liberal society, to give all of these, palliative reasons outside of any accountability for Black men have left them to truly believe that they don't have a certain level of locus of control where they can affect their outcome. And by so doing, it allows for you not to do anything. And it also means you're not accountable for anything. What do you think about that?
So yes and no. I feel like I'm one of those people. I don't. I think it's very difficult to be to continue to be a subscriber of mine just generally, because I think all that's going to happen is I'm always going to make someone angry, because I accept and believe that we need more internal locus of control. I think that is important. But I also recognize that things do happen to us, and we are, I know people don't like this, but we are a victim in the system. I think that we have been dealt a terrible hand. And I think that it's very difficult to navigate, and always having to prove yourself when mediocrity in other groups rise to the top. That is frustrating to see. But I do agree with you that agency matters. I think that in the way that we have coddled people within our group, I think that's the problem. But I'm not like I honestly, when I look at Black women statistics about education and entrepreneurship and them actually trying, like I am encouraged by it, not because like, oh, women doing it, like they're doing it in the face of like really meaningful obstacles. And so for them to be doing that and for the stats to be what it is, I'm like, that is amazing. Now I look at Black men, and I don't think, unlike most people, Black men who are failing, like I'm not thinking, oh my God, you're the worst. I'm thinking you have been subject to a system and you are unwilling to fight it because maybe you personally don't want to fight, or you are thinking about, I don't think a lot of people are, about the people who have fought before you and have failed and built and it has burnt down, and maybe you don't know how to
That's like, oh my God, like but see, that's the thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to have to cut you off. But every time we talk about this, we're like, well, every time we build something, they just knock it down. Remember Tulsa. And it's like, oh my God. So, okay. So
Okay, so
100 years ago, they burnt down Tulsa. That means you get in 2023, you can't do it.
there's a lot of Black Wall Street, but you and I have different reaction, and I think you're justified in your reaction. Here's why. I think Black women probably look at Black men and they're like, I am doing it, why can't you? Fear. Fear.
Period.
Right.
Period.
Fear. Like, I mean, I'm not
Especially
gonna
in a patriarchy. You said yourself earlier, Black men got the vote before white women got the vote.
Right. But from a man's perspective, not only are you failing, you are subjugated to another group. Your ego must be hurt, and you can say build all you want. But I'm doing a lot of reading now again, and it's like, why would I build if I can't protect? If I cannot protect that which I build, it feels like a waste of time to build. Look at it.
I mean,
I know. Wait. I want people to put
Themis.
some tomatoes in the chat. No, I want tomatoes at me because like I am like more than being on the right side and more than coddling and more than all of the foolishness that happens online. I I want to be right and I want to do the right thing. And I am not sure that being like not stepping back into nuance is the right thing. Because at one point, I literally thought I could like tell men the truth and we will build together and you will see that these men can change. And I'm realizing that no, a lot of people have been just accepted their defeat.
Mm-hmm.
Someone says it's a weak argument. It's not a weak argument. It's a strong argument. It's a weak
Well, I mean,
position.
but that's the thing too. That's what I'm saying. That I think that, part of our politics, like I think part of systemic racism, I think people always think of systemic racism as like maybe the subtle thing, maybe something overt like police brutality. We never talk about systematic racism being the soft bigotry of low expectations and how
True.
devastating that is. So I think it was Bush who came up with the soft bigotry of low expectations. Like that's
Mhm.
systemic. The fact that, I'm not going to make this a political conversation. I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican. I'm a registered independent. I choose my politicians like I choose my men. Let the best man win, period. Okay.
Yeah.
And for politicians or women, okay, not with my men, but when it comes to politicians, let the best man or woman win. That's how I see it. But we have become so identified with the Democratic Party, which systemically is racist. I saw it in full color when No Wedding, No Womb came out. Themis, I don't know if you knew me then, but you know what No Wedding, No Womb is,
Yeah.
right? It was white liberal feminist women who would write think pieces. I would say unthinking pieces, maybe that's what I should call it. Unthoughtful pieces, saying that what I was doing uh, and was a proponent of was discriminatory to Black single mothers and shaming them because for some Black mothers, the only goal that they could have, the only thing that they could possibly achieve is having a child. Like these were white women, white feminist women who said that, well, you know what? Black single mothers don't really have much to look forward to, so they might as well have kids, and you shouldn't be shaming them for it. I mean, and it's always that. It's always you can't do something.
No. So I don't trust white feminist writers. Just as a general matter, I just don't trust the writing. However, um, I think you did a live stream the other day and I went back to read some of them. I agree with you. I disagree with them. But I agree with the sentiment, what part of the sentiment, where there was a fear that there is a shaming of women who already have children. And I don't know how women, because this is a women's conversation, I don't know how women can come together and talk about improvement without shaming groups within their groups. I think it's fundamentally important that we aren't elitist about what we are doing and we're not shaming people who are, and I think
But here's the
inadvertently.
thing, our out of wedlock issue goes beyond socioeconomic strata.
Yeah, but
80%,
like,
there was once a study that came out. 80% of college-educated Black women have their first child unmarried. 80%. That's crazy. So it's not about, I don't think it's about being elitist, because elitists are doing this.
Yes, but when I say elitist, I'm talking not about numbers. I'm talking about making sure that we are not shaming people. Like the
Mhm.
Black community is built off the backs of is doing the way people shame single mothers is abhorrent to me because it's like yes, but like let's drag absentee fathers. Let's do that and let's support single mothers because I think fundamentally the problem isn't single mother. The problem is absentee father. One man can have I don't know how many children per year while a woman can only have one. And we I think we miss fundamental points when we are like single mother, like girl, not you, but like I heard you the first 10 times. The
Mhm.
problem is this one man can impregnate multiple women,
Mhm.
none of them
Hundreds.
knowing each other, and
Mhm.
you are going to blame these women. No, you probably should get a
Mhm.
vasectomy. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, but
understand.
see that's the thing. Like that's what they were saying, that oh, you're blaming the women for their situation, and I was like, no. What I'm saying is that there's an assumption for a lot when especially back in 2010. I don't know if you guys heard that. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
at the port, and I guess the boat's about to shove off. Um, there was a lot of young Black women who just think that that's just how things are going to be. Like they just
that's sad.
they have this assumption that I'm gonna graduate high school and I'll have a kid, or I'm gonna graduate college and I'll have a and there's no expectation of marriage. And what I was saying was, Black women, you deserve this. Every other woman of every race expects to not have to raise a child alone. I'm not saying that they don't raise children alone. Clearly they do. But no, I don't think any other group is telling its women to expect to have to do it alone. That
Yeah,
we
no,
literally
yeah,
tell Black
that's the
women
problem.
to
Yeah.
expect that outcome.
Yeah, I agree. Someone I you said don't read the comments, so I'm not going to respond to it. Never mind. No, I'm not going to respond to it.
Okay.
When we say things are equally to be blamed, I think we are misunderstanding. Engaging in the activity, getting pregnant, you're equally to be blamed. What should you do after that? Should you abort? Should you have the child? Sounds like a personal problem to me. When you do have the child, no, it is not equally to be blamed when you are doing your responsibility
Hmm.
and he decides not to
He's
do his
not. Hmm.
responsibility. Absolutely not. You, as a man, are 100% to be blamed for not carrying your responsibility as a man. You, as a woman, you are 100% responsible for carrying your responsibility as a woman. You are not 50-50. It's not 50-50.
Hmm.
You failed in your duties as a father. It's a you problem. Point
Hmm.
blank period. I'm not about to
Yeah.
go back and
Yeah.
forth on that.
Right. And so but honestly, just to go back, not to beat the poor dead horse, but my whole thing was to instill a level of self-worth into Black young women, saying you are worthy of these partners, that you shouldn't just expect to go it alone, that nobody should tell you that this is just supposed to be your lot in life, and to think differently. So it was never to shame, but that's the angle that they took, these white liberal feminist women who came out against no wedding, no womb with the tactic approval of Black feminists on Twitter, did that. I will never forget that. And for me, that was the point where I had my Candace Owens moment, where I was like, okay, I'm not a Democrat anymore.
Not your Candace Owens moment.
I had
By
that.
the way, this is how we became.
Honestly,
This is how
that
we
was my
became
Candace
friends.
Owens moment.
By the way, this is how we became friends. I think you made a video that I might have misunderstood where you talked about how you liked Candace Owens, but you said specifically, you deleted it now, but it was when I went back, you said, I am not talking about her politics. I remember you saying that. but that's not what I heard. So I
I
definitely,
know that's why I did it. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of the smoke coming my way. It's not deleted. It's just on private.
yeah.
It's in the Pinkful Underground group. But yeah,
Then
I
you
just,
came over because I made a response to your
you
video.
did.
You came over, you made a note. I then went to your channel. I rewatched it. I apologized. I removed it, but then you and I we spoke, and I was like, I still disagree with you. I only removed it
Right.
because like one word I missed, and while I disagree with the video still, I was wrong in not picking up that one word. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
left it alone, and then we started talking, and you were super sweet. So yeah, and
Yeah.
now we're here.
I know we're here. Yay. Yay. It's amazing how many friends I've made because they thought they should hate me because somebody said something wrong or heard something wrong. But anyway, I want to get to the cornerstone of this bullshit of an excuse for why Black men aren't being available for Black women in partnerships in
Before you
college.
do, can you hit the right before that comment? There was a comment.
What was it? What did it say?
I should I. So no, you don't have to hit it. I feel like people are so good at sort of ad hominem attacks that it feels like people are like, oh, if you're not this, if you're not Black, if you're not this, if you're not that, if you're not whatever, you don't get to speak. And it's weird if you're not ADOS, if like it's a very weird thing where it's I understand the inclination, but like, are you saying without shared identity that the person's message should not be heard and investigated? Like I'm very concerned about this idea, this tying identity to that which people can understand. Like it's a very strange thing. Someone was like, he is gay. First of all, fruitcake gang all day. But also, it doesn't make sense. Like, oh my God, why would you ask that? Okay, go ask Kevin. Well, sorry. I just realized, I promise I didn't mean it.
You got
That
me.
was not meant to be
Keep it
said.
over here. Oh my
That
god.
was that was not meant to come out that way. I was trying to say, go ask someone else, but these men aren't actually engaging in research. I am not telling you what to do. I'm just synthesizing information that I have, creating some kind of conclusion about what is happening in the world. And then you can look up the data, you can engage in your own experience, and then come back with a result. That is what it is. But I just, I don't know. I don't like ad hominem attacks. I grew up in
Oh my
an
god, me
I'm
neither.
in an area where like your word matter, that you're engaging in debate, so your intellect matter. Those things matter, not your personal identity. So being online, it's kind of odd to have to engage with. Well, I guess I don't have to. You said to ignore the chat. Let me go
Yeah,
back to
I mean,
the video.
listen, you know what I started doing? Because listen, my eyes have got my, I don't know if it's because of age, because I am going to be 50 in July, or just being on the computer for the last 13 years. But what I do is I just do this. Oh, yeah, I don't know what they're saying. Let me just keep going. This is my secret.
So Damon, oh, this man said you're laughing, but successful and well-dressed men are called gay in the Black community by Black women. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
No, listen, I
I
love
think
well-dressed Black man. I listen, I really think I think it's like emotionally stunting to dress like you're in high school, dress like a teenager. I mean, you see these 60, 50-year-old Black men dressing like high schoolers. I would much rather see a distinguished man in a suit. um I would not assume he was gay because he pulled his pants up and he wasn't wearing one of those trucker hats and he wasn't wearing some sloppy t-shirt. I would not assume. Like, so are these the markers of heterosexuality? Trucker hats,
Yeah.
extra long t-shirts, saggy pants. Is that the marker of masculinity for Black men? Themis, is that it? Did I miss something?
Check my community wall. If you want to know, check my community wall.
I don't even know if I want to do that. But listen, okay, so going back to this article, I'm about to just, so we left off where they were saying systematic violence, including police brutality, make issues like higher mortality rates higher with Black men. So the author is trying to say that systemic racism and brutality, particularly police brutality, keeps Black men out of college. So police brutality meaning what exactly? Being shot by police. And the only reason I bring that up is because she did. She said issues like higher mortality. So if you're talking about mortality, it means life or death, right? So if you're talking about police brutality, you're not talking about just getting beat up by the police, right? You're talking about being killed by the police. And what you're implying is that so many young Black men are being killed by the police that there's not enough of them to go to college. I call cap, and I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to go to this little ditty here. They must look at this. Number of people killed by police in the United States between 2013 and 2022 by ethnicity. So Black is 313 in 2022. Asian was 25. Hispanic was 216. Native American 17. One Pacific Islander, 118 unknown, and 502 white people killed by the police in 2022. Now, white people clearly from this chart are getting killed more than anybody else.
Oh, this is from 2020.
I understand why. Like, I know what people are going to say. They're going to be like, "Why not? That's more." I'm not talking about that. Let's take the numbers for what they are. 313 for Black men. Okay, so 313. Let's assume they're all men and not Black women, but just all Black men. So you mean to tell me that if the police hadn't killed those 313 Black men, the colleges would be full of them? If it weren't for the police brutality of 313 Black men being killed in 2022. Let's look about this. Look.
Wait, no, don't move. There is some
right back
with this. So you are correct. This is not supposed to be used in the article because this is not enough numerically in raw numbers to make the argument that the author was making in the argument. Brianna was making in the article, right? That's true. This, however, is concerning. On its own.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying it's not concerning. I'm just saying to use that as the reason why Black men don't go to college because of high mortality rates, and using this as one of the reasons for those mortality rates, that 313 Black, let's just say all of them were men, 313 Black men. If those 313 Black men lived, then we wouldn't have this imbalance in universities. Like, that just doesn't make sense.
Nope. You can't use that. The only thing that I was pointing out in seeing this outlined in this way is that Black people make up 14% at the highest percent of the population. The number here is absolutely too high. So that's also a problem for me.
Yes, that is a problem. Yeah.
But that's a question about system and agency and all of that. and I do have those conversations, and I know that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And I don't ever tell women to go fight for men. Like I'm not that person. But I think Black men do need to focus on this more in the manosphere, and fight that. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, because if you look at the ratios, like look at the difference between Asian people and Black people. Look at the even difference from Hispanic. So Hispanic is probably the closest because they've got a lot of gang activity within their culture, especially out here in Southern California. That's near to Mexico. Like I literally can drive to Tijuana in 20 minutes from where I am. So they do have a high level of violence, and Hispanics are a higher percentage of the population. What is the percentage of Asians in the U.S.? Is it more than 14% or is it less?
I can check that right now.
Pacific Islanders act like they don't seem to be having a lot of. Only one Pacific Islander got killed by the police in 22.
7.2%.
Oh, okay. So Hispanics are 7.2%?
No. Asians.
Oh, Asians are 7%.
Yeah.
Okay. And Hispanics are, I know, a higher percentage of
19%.
Okay. So Hispanic is 19% of the population and 216. Yeah, no, I mean, Asians are, you said 7%. That number 25 is, consistent with that level. The ratio is somewhat reasonable. The ratio for Black is not.
It's wild.
It's wild. It is. Yeah. I have to concede that. You're absolutely right. It is.
Oh, I wasn't looking for a concession. I thought you were going to rebut with saying, oh, but they're the most dangerous. So unless you're defining police brutality as unwarranted, which is not, it's usually not showcased in the article of when you say police brutality, are you describing it as, because this is only killed by police.
She was talking about mortality. And so if you're talking about mortality, you're talking about death. So
yeah, no, you're right. But I'm saying when I say this is disproportionate for Black people, there is an argument, I think, it's more of a conservative argument where it's like, but if you're doing more of the horrible crimes and you're engaging in this way, then are they being killed because they're shootouts or whatever? So I thought they would, that's where the conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, the main reason why young Black men are dying is because the main reason is not the police. The main reason is other Black men. And we can't even have the conversation because to have the conversation and not blame it on white people.
I mean, the leading cause of death for Black men ages 1 to 44 is homicide. And then after that, it's like heart disease or something. So
yeah. So, I mean, so this, like, you're talking about a very small percentage of, like, I don't know, what is that? Less than 1%. So if there are 24 million, so I want to just put this in perspective. If we're 14% of population, it's 24 million of us or somewhere around there. Is it 24? No, it's actually more than that. It's more than that. There's 22 million Black men and 24 million Black women combined. So because we outnumber them by 2 million, right?
Oh, there's 41 million Black people. 41.
Okay, so there's 41 million Black people and 313 died. What's the percentage of that?
Now you asking me to do that.
I'm just saying, like, 41 million out of 41 million people, 313 people died. And what are we, I mean, listen, I'm trying to be very sensitive into what I'm saying. I think you guys know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, you don't finish it.
I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to leave it dangling there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave it dangling.
Yeah, we both agree that that's like just a weird thing to do. But she's not the only one who does it. Every single writer did it. Prior to doing my own research, I promise you that I just thought police officers were out here just killing black men. Like I just thought it was like just all over. And I think it's important that we care. Like I care. I don't. Not we. I'm not telling anyone to do. I care about it, and I think it's important that I care about this, and I will continue to fight privately, legislatively, all of that, for more police accountability. That much is true on my part, but I don't like how it's politicized, and I think we are lying, about the raw numbers to scare people. But I do think that when a system, particularly police, are behaving badly, they should be held accountable. That is my stance there. But I also think individuals need to be held accountable for behaving badly within the community. And this idea that because Black people are oppressed within a system, that there isn't another hierarchy within the Black community causing oppression on people within the community. I'm talking about women, children, disabled. Like, it's a problem. And I feel like we hide behind systemic racism, so we don't have to ever address what is happening intraculturally, and that is a problem.
Yes,
Sorry.
because it's. I mean, literally, it's what's happening interculturally that's the main problem. All this other stuff is a red herring. It's
Oh,
like
I'm not willing to say that, but
I'm I'm
sure.
I,
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna come out and say it. I'm gonna come out and say it. I'm not saying that the facts are not the facts. What I'm saying is that if Black people focused on not killing each other, which is something they can do, those numbers would change overnight. If Black men would support each other in elevating themselves to be educated and successful, the problem would be gone overnight. If children weren't born, if let me put it this way, if single mothers weren't given the burden of having to do everything themselves, and actually have the father stick around, the problem would be solved overnight.
Look,
These are all things that require internal locus of control.
I just
Whereas I see,
saw
mhm.
look, I just saw a Black man in your comments say that Black men aren't doing as bad as we think. So, period.
Well, they all. I mean, listen. If some delusions are helpful. You know, that's all I can say. Some delusions are helpful if they help you get through the day. Um, who am I to judge? Helpful delusions, get you through the
I mean,
day.
if y'all believe we're not doing poorly, I think we are. But if you believe we're not, I, to the person who said that, Damon, I think Google. I'm not going to give you the answer to this either. Google the average wealth for the Black family, and then Google the average wealth for the white family and the Asian family, and then come back.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let me go back to this article. Okay, moving on. A hostile dating environment. This is where I want the ladies to chime in, because we're not going to just be focusing. We're not focusing on the men. Okay. We spent a lot of time focusing on them because that's how the article started, but we're going to go to us. The hostile dating environment. While Black women have the lowest rates of dating across race lines, predominantly white institutions don't necessarily create an inviting environment for those who are open to pursuing love outside their race. These are Black women in an institution that is increasingly hostile towards people of color, particularly Black women, said Celeste Currington, an assistant professor of sociology in Boston University and co-author of The Dating Divide. I'm really confused by this too. I'm trying to understand what predominantly white institutions are supposed to be creating. What environments are they supposed to be creating to make it inviting for Black women to date interracially? Like, is it the school's responsibility to facilitate something? Like, what like when you read that, what were you thinking? Like, I was just like, wait, What? How is it the school's job to make
I
sure
was
that Black women have opportunities to swirl? What?
I was thinking that this is what I would expect. Like, obviously, it's going to be everyone else's fault regarding why we can or can't do anything. I agree with you. It's not the school's responsibility, and I don't know why. I don't understand why that is even in there, honestly.
I'm so sick of these kind of articles. Like, I'm so sick of, I get it. It's trendy. Blame Whitey for everything. Okay, I get it. But like now to put the burdens on PWIs to facilitate opportunities for Black women to be in interracial relationships, or facilitate any women of any race to to be in any kind of relationship, seems out of bounds for an academic institution. That
But
seems
it's
to be
not.
out of the scope of responsibility that they should have.
I think what the author should have done is instead of focusing on creating an environment that is conducive to a relationship, talk about creating an environment that is welcoming. And I think Black women in white institution and even white institution, there's a lot of challenges about being there. And I think focusing on how institutions can like actually be welcoming and care about Black women students would have been more useful.
Yeah, I mean, I think just allowing for them to feel welcome in general is not something that's outrageous. I think that that's a good thing to do. But I'm going to argue the point that they do. And I'm going to tell you what I did when I was in college. And I didn't understand the magnitude of the opportunity I was missing. Everybody has a mailbox, right? Like, I don't know if they still do that. I don't know if it's just on email now, but when I was in college, everybody had like this bank. If you lived on campus, there was this bank of like mailboxes. And so you would go to your mailbox and you would get stuff. I would have flyers. My mailbox would be stuffed with flyers of invitations for different fraternity events, sorority events, invitations to pledge, opportunities to volunteer, networking events. Like there were so many things, and I just threw all those flyers away. I never went to any of them. They tried. I didn't receive because
No,
I
they didn't
didn't
try.
understand at the time the importance of it.
I think it's different. And you're saying that we need to be better about seizing opportunities, and we do. I will say they don't try. Most white institutions don't care, and I there's an opportunity there, right? What you're talking about is Black women and Black people missing opportunities when they're in white institutions to excel and connect and all of that. But I will say, from my experience, that there's a lack of trying, and this is from someone who became the president of his student body. I I will tell you that I had to fight to get um, to get programs implemented where Black people were even felt safe. I don't think these institutions are doing enough to accommodate Black people in there.
Now
That's my
that may be right. I mean, you may have a point. But to say that I can receive that they probably don't do enough. But to say that they do nothing, or they purposely try to make your experience unpalatable as a Black woman seeking to build a network and relationships, I just think is a little bit too far. I just
I
think
mean,
that
to be
that's
fair, agreed. To be fair, the argument can be made that they shouldn't have to. Like,
yeah.
it's a predominantly white institution. Why not create your own? If a white person said that to me, I would shut up.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and here's another thing too. Okay, this is very interesting. Brielle said, "Facts: Black women are looked down upon in general. Unfortunately, it's not our fault." No, that's not it. That's not the one that I wanted to. I wanted to read this one. Black women always make their own space wherever we go. The point is, our parents did not tell us. Yeah. So here's the thing: Black women do make their own spaces, and we all hang out together, and we tend to be exclusive with that. Again, going back to Friday, Saturday night, when I was in the Dahini dorms, it was Black girls giving each other's perms, dyeing their hair, dyeing their hair. Oh my God, these disastrous colors. I can't even. Doing roller sets, talking about the 8 guys in the school and how they wish that they would want to date them. And then that was it. That's what we did create our own spaces, but our spaces were not unfortunately inclusive. We just stuck together, and we all had this mentality of, you really just like, it just never even occurred to. And I graduated in 1999, and I can tell you that 99% of the Black women there, it never occurred to them to look to another race of man to date. I just didn't see it. I didn't see it. I mean, I did it, but I didn't do it with somebody in school. Like, ultimately, I mean, I met my ex-husband while I was in college, and we were married for almost 20 years, but he'd already graduated college. I didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And listen, I went to Loyola, and I was in the communications department. Themis, do you know how many Hollywood producers, equity, like screenwriters, all this, that I was rubbing shoulders with, who are now super uber successful millionaires, multimillionaires, sometimes worth hundreds of millions. I went to school with these people, and I was just like, meh, I'm good. Do you have the syllabus for the homework? I'm just like, I had my head up my behind. I did not take advantage of what was already there in front of me. It could have been lacking. It might not have been a lot, but what was there, I ignored. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will never disagree on like trying to seize every opportunity. I think that's a good rule of thumb. So I think I'm good there.
Yeah. So this is actually a point that I agree with. Black women often don't feel comfortable or welcome in what is the pervasive romantic scene, which is the hookup scene. The parties, the drinking fraternities, those are often white men's territory on campus, linguists added. Longstanding images and stereotypes assigned to Black femininity that devalues it as something that is deviant and undesirable also plays a role in why Black women are being approached less on campuses. These
You know what? I appreciate Black women's unwillingness to be demeaned in order to be accepted. When
Mhm.
I tell you that there are quote unquote jokes among certain people, they can't do it with me. But I find that, and maybe because I don't know, maybe men like our culture differently. I think men are willing to like allow certain kinds of jokes and um, allowed to be included, while women aren't. So I feel like there is a lot of that, and when we talk about social dynamics, that gets missed. But I appreciate that Black women aren't standing for that. Um, the perpetuation of stereotypes around Black womanhood, I feel like we that has always been in the media, but it sucks that now that we have control over our image to some degree on YouTube and Instagram, these narratives and stereotypes continue. They literally continue, and we are at the forefront now of pushing these stereotypes about Black womanhood. And I find that really annoying that like a lot of these articles and a lot of these think pieces aren't actually investigating the realities of how Black men specifically, and a lot of Black women, mind you, are like literally online pushing narratives that demean the image of Black women. And like it says, these white supremacist initiatives throughout history, correct. And they continue currently with Black faces on them pushing these same images. And that's what the paper is not going to include because that requires some kind of responsibility. Go ahead.
Sorry, I had to take my camera off because sunset's right there, and you probably wouldn't
Yeah.
be able to see me in a minute. um, let's no, and I agree. I think that Black women saying, you know what, that's not something I'm going to participate in. I'm not going to go to frat parties and allow myself to be uh, vulnerable to being sexually exploited and potentially fetish. Like I get it, that does make sense, but that's not the only way that you meet
Yeah.
men. Frat parties are not the only way. I went to I was sitting I was sitting next to, there was a boy there, Paul, Jewish guy, smart as a whip, and I could tell that he liked me, but I was just like, nah, I just didn't see him. And like we saw each other every day in class. I knew he thought I was attractive, and I just blew it off. Like, put a number 1 in the chat if in retrospect, while you were in college or in high school, there was a little non-black boy that gave it some attention to you, showed interest, that you just didn't take seriously. Put a 1 in the chat if that was you. Be honest. Because it was me. Look, City Auntie says a whole bunch of 1s. Esha says 1. That never happened to me. LOL. But yeah, it's like, and a lot of times Black women don't even know when they're being hit on, but you kind of figure it out if you got a little boy that's running after you after every class, trying to find an excuse to talk to you, trying to find an excuse to do a study group or to go to coffee or whatever. And like, we got to own the fact that we just don't take those overtures seriously. I think we're getting better at it, but we just don't. Like, the opportunity has been presented, we just don't always take it seriously. But it's not to negate what you're saying either, Themis. So it goes on to say the white supremacist initiatives. Themis, what is she talking about? These white supremacist initiatives? What?
I think she's talking about the historical reality of Black people being degraded generally.
Yes, but what is the definition of initiatives? The definition of initiatives: the ability to assess and initiate things independently, the power or opportunity to act or take charge before others do, an act or strategy intended to resolve a difficulty or improve a situation. So an initiative to me, in my mind, is something that you're creating so something else won't happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're creating something so something won't happen. I just don't think that it's the focus. I don't think it's, I just don't think there's that
No,
much thought
I mean, she
in
does
it.
say
Like, I
if she
don't think that
was
there's a
talking
bunch of
about,
white guys in a smoke-filled room smoking cigars saying, how can we create our predominantly white institutions to systematically and institutionally keep Black women from dating in college or having opportunities to meet quality mates. Like, I just
no,
don't
but
think.
I don't think that's a fair assessment of the sentence. These white supremacist initiatives throughout history paint Black women as aggressive or
Mhm.
hypersexual on the one end, but also non-feminine on the other
Yeah.
hand.
Hmm.
What they're
Hmm.
talking about is the dehumanizing of Black people historically that
Hmm.
justified slavery.
Hmm.
Whether or not she needed to go back to slavery to do this article, one could argue, but I wouldn't care about that argument because in contemporary America, white people cannot and keep a career explicitly do the kind of damage to Black women's image as can Black men and Black women, which they do online. But she's talking about images and how white people created stereotypes around blackness. Now, I
But I
believe that.
understand that though. But is I understand you're talking about in totality. We're talking about on a macro level. I don't think institutions are participating in that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I'm saying that those stereotypes and presuppositions were there. I don't think universities are putting any sort of initiatives in place to perpetuate it. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
but they're
saying.
not talking about you. This is why the writing is not the best, um, because it's not talking about the universities now. It's talking about white supremacist initiatives that predate some of these
Okay.
universities and how they have transcended time. We can argue she doesn't prove, but we can argue whether or not that's true. What I do know is true is that we perpetuate these images like we do. And
Mhm.
so that Black women are not seen as attractive is an image that we have perpetuated in our culture by Black
Mhm.
men and Black women alike. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, if it's white supremacist, it's white supremacist, but we engage in the behavior.
Yeah, we do. I think we do. Anyway, that's a separate conversation. When I get to, I could say more, but I'll just. Okay. She says, okay, the white supremacy initiatives throughout history paint Black women as aggressive or hypersexual on one end, but also non-feminine on the other hand. A lot of people internalize these images, and of course, they're also pinned against white femininity. Currington said, Blackness, particularly gendered Blackness, was not framed as something that is beautiful, that can be desirable, and this impacts people's experiences. On dating apps, Black women with a college degree are more likely to be passed on by non Black men than a white woman with less education. A lot of my roommates were white and they were, go
Wait, wait,
ahead.
wait. That sentence is like ridiculous. Like on a dating app, Black women with a college degree are more likely to be passed on by non-Black men than a white woman with less education. The fact is, people prioritize dating in their race. I don't know, like, why is that a
Right.
point? Like, anyway, yeah.
Right. And then but then I got to ask too. I'm like, is this across okay, they're comparing Black women to white women. Um
You would think
I'm
white
sorry.
men or non-black men as the benchmark, which
Yeah.
I mean, even if you use a black man, you might still get the same result. But the reality is,
I
it
mean,
would
they're
be
acting like Black men don't prefer white women either, because some of them do. I mean, yes, listen, I'm not, I'm saying by far the overwhelming majority of Black men prefer to date Black women. We can have another discussion, a separate discussion about colorism and how Blackish is good enough. We all know that. But I'm not going to sit up here and say that most Black men aren't with Black women. They are, but they have a very high, disproportionately high interest in dating women of other races than, other races combined. It is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, Black women, you're not even being picked by your own men. And when they talk about, like, to your point, Themis, it's the men, and you also say the women too, that perpetuate these negative stereotypes, this lack of femininity, this lack of allure, and then also being compared and contrasted to white women is simply unfair. But you got to admit, like, Black men do that too. Like, Black men will compare Black femininity to white femininity, not even realizing that they're kind of insulting themselves, because if we're in a
Yeah.
patriarchy, right, and you're praising a women of another tribe that's under a patriarchy, and you're praising how feminine they are, the reason why they're feminine and the reason why femininity is able to thrive is because there is a structure, there is protection, there is a contract between both the genders of what the roles are. The men are more effective in making the women feel safe and protect them, regardless of whether they marry white men or marry at all, whether they marry other men or at all, whether they're tall, short, whether they're single mothers or married mothers, whether they're straight whether they're gay. The men of that patriarchy protect the women, period, whether they like white men or not. I was like, white men say, I'm not saying in every case, but white men say the institutions and power that we have, we will protect white women regardless of whether they like us or not, whether or not they're having sex with us or not, whether or not they marry us, whatever that is. And when Black men praise women of other races, what they're doing is admitting that the patriarchy that is it within this community is failing. Because the reason why Black women may not be as feminine, why they have to tap into a more...
I am not deeply engaging with this article. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. I'll just say it. You don't have to say anything. But listen, when you have to do it alone, there are certain elements of your characteristics that have to move forward, that have to lead for things for your survival. And so if we're looking at why Black women aren't necessarily as feminine, we do have to look at the racist elements of that, but we also have to look at the fact that, part of going back to the very premise of the article, I'm going to go to the first, the fourth paragraph. For Black women attending college, we're really striving to level the playing field or become economically stable. Our goal is to secure a career and in turn secure our families. That does not sound like a community that focuses on protecting and providing for its women. It sounds like a community that's leaving it up to the women to figure it out for themselves. That's all I'm saying. You want to say anything, or are you just going to keep it quiet? I mean, it's okay if you don't want to touch it, but you can if you want to. Let's see. Okay. A lot of my roommates were white and they were always quickly getting into a relationship, even as freshmen, whereas I was on that same campus for 4 years and never found anyone, said Lauren Crane, a recent graduate from Missouri Valley College. Crane, who dated interracially and interracially, said she had several experiences where she would casually date men who would tell her they weren't looking for something serious, only to see them in a relationship with a non-Black woman later. They pretty much only wanted sex when it came to me. I gotta concede the point, though. I think that we do probably have more issues related to that. What do you say? I mean, it's like, I can't lie,
I'm curious as to where this is coming from, and I would like to talk to the speaker here. I don't. There is not enough information here to really get into it. But if you have a stereotype about hypersexuality, then it makes sense. This conclusion makes sense. It's interesting because I remember. I don't know what year this was, but I think after integration, there was this big push about Black women not wanting to do certain things in the bedroom, and they wanted white women.
Oh God, I remember that.
And so it's really strange now that the women acquiesce. I don't think they did actually, but let's assume they did acquiesce to the culture you requested vis-a-vis promotion online about women in music videos and all of that. And now it's like, oh, they're too sexual. It's like, all right.
Yeah, no, it's like we can't win for losing. I can tell you when I was in high school, put a 1 in the chat if you were part of this generation where in high school and even in college, we got the explanation, well, Black men date white women because white women will give oral sex and Black women will not do that. So the reason why they date non-Black women is because they're able to, they will actually be more sexual. So it's very interesting, Themis, that back in the 80s and 90s, the justification for black boys and black men dating interracially was that white girls were easy. But here we are being stereotyped as easy, and that's the reason why we can't get a man. So I don't know. I just think that the article is all kinds of problematic. I'm gonna give you guys the link in the chat so you guys can read the rest through it. It's a very interesting topic of conversation. I just don't know if I buy the reasons behind it. I think that it's good for us to have these conversations and talk about it, but again, whenever we have these conversations, they fail to be any there fails to be any kind of introspection or accountability on what we may be doing. And it's not to say that we always have power over that, but we do have some. And to attribute everything that happens in the Black community that is dysfunctional to racist institutions and ideologies and initiatives really takes away the agency. And it also means that you lack any internal locus of control. If you buy into that, that means that you believe the world happens to you and that there's nothing that you can do as an individual to change your situation. Listen, bottom line is this. I know it's hard out there. I know I wake up and, I'm trying to start a new business. I know it's harder for me as a Black woman. I know I don't have the network access. I mean, I probably have more than the average person, but for the most part, we don't have this access to networks. It's going to be harder for me. I understand that, but it's not going to stop me. I am never going to say that even though I am Black and I'm a woman and I'm darker skinned and I have kinky textured hair, that the things that I want to achieve in life, I will not be able to do because of somebody else. Did you ever feel like that, Themis? Did you ever feel like you couldn't do something because of your Blackness? And did you not try because of it?
The way you framed the question, you were like, I appreciate the intelligence, honest to God. Like, you do. Because you made it so that I only had one answer. I'm not just gonna say no, pink pill. I know I I've never felt limited because of my Blackness, though I understand the limit that society places on my Blackness. So like,
but understanding the limit and still doing it anyway, still saying, you know what, I understand the limit, but I'm still gonna do it.
the fact that Black women are doing it means that it can be done. So like, that moots anything else that I have to say.
But I'm
So like,
talking as a man. So if we're talking about like, I'm talking
no,
in terms
definitely.
of,
If y'all can, no. In a patriarchy, if y'all can do it, we definitely can. Like that's no ifs, ands, or buts there. My, I am so afraid of saying. I'm just gonna say, all right. I'm just gonna be Kim Kardashian and be like, it seems like nobody want to work these days. Get you and work. I guess I don't know. That's where I'm gonna end there because I do. I'm always cautious because I feel like, and I've been told this so many times now that I'm starting to believe it, because you were not born in America and you just came here, you don't fully understand what it means to be a Black person. And so, like,
what?
no, but I don't react to it like, oh my God, how dare you? I react to it like maybe there's something that I don't know that
No.
I need to figure out. So I don't know. I do
I don't
push
think
men and
so.
I say men should.
I think you have a pretty firm understanding of the Black American experience. Like, I think you have every right to speak on it. You've been here long enough too. You live
Yeah,
here.
but
And
I
you have a
don't
right.
think poverty. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think poverty is a mindset.
Mhm.
And I try to stay clear of anything that would say that. But I also believe in agency. So like, how do I juggle this idea that like you can do it with there's so many people not doing it, right? So it's hard. I think capitalism requires an underclass. The question is, do Black people have to be that underclass?
Right.
And I don't think the answer to that is yes. So I I'm contemplating more about how I move this. Someone said poverty is a mindset. I mean, I think a lot of people believe that.
Like I think you can be. I think being broke, like it's very different from having maybe be in a situation where you don't have a lot of money coming in, but you have the ability to get it. You understand that it's not a permanent situation. Whereas poverty is a mentality that goes from generation to generation. I mean, at least that's what they taught us in church. Like they always talk about poverty being the mentality. And I think that there is some credence, because I think that you could take two Black people who are in a situation where they've lost their jobs. If you have somebody who has a certain type of mindset, may say, you know what, I lost this job because I don't know, the world is racist. I'm not going to be able to get another job. I'm just going to coast, or whatever their decision is. And then you have another Black person who says, yes, I lost my job, but let me hustle and see what else I can do. I'm broke right now, but this is a temporary situation that I believe that I can get out of. Let me figure out what resources I can get into. Let me figure out who I can talk to, what networks I can join, what classes I can take, so that I can get myself out of the situation. Where you have the other person who has sort of this helpless attitude towards
Oh yeah,
not
no,
being
I
able
think
to
you need
get
the
out of
right
it.
mindset. I would never pretend like if you're in poverty, you very difficult for you to just fall into wealth. You have to have the right mindset, and you have to have the right actions behind the mindset. My issue is that I think you can have the right mindset and still fail. I think that it's okay to fail, and I hope that you keep trying. Let it be that you died trying and not gave up.
Right.
But I don't know if the end result of all your try is going to be your success.
Right.
I,
Well,
I
but here's the thing. Even the most successful people fail. It's like, you know
yeah,
what? The difference is we just keep trying.
yeah, yeah.
You just keep at it. You fail. Like, you know how many times I fell on my face? And if I would have just been like, oh well, that's it, I'd have been gone. Like like at some point anyway,
Yeah,
that's a
I
whole
mean, I saw someone say this, and Ultimate Enigma says the next right step. Yeah, just my advice. I don't give advice, but if I did, this is it. Just take the next right step. That's Do the right thing, take the next right step, and help someone. Um, I am as I become older, I am being more and more open to like wanting to give everyone a warm hug. Um, and just say, just try. Like I am finding that like life is hard. People are going through a lot, and I hope that is so sentimental, but I do hope that like my being here wherever I am, that I'm lessening suffering as opposed to adding to it.
right.
That's my one hope.
Oh
Like
well,
that's
you definitely are. You are so refreshing. Oh my God. Every time you come on,
oh,
every
thank
every
you.
time I see you live on my YouTube, you lessen my suffering.
Well,
I want to conclude with giving the results of the poll. You guys voted 1,197, 98, and 99 counting. It's a solid 76%, even after people continue to vote. And with the sample size of over 1,000 people, you all agree that you think it's important for Black women to look for good and stable mates while in college. That means that that's important, and I agree. This is I would take a look at this article. I think the premise of it is
I
good.
wouldn't.
The reasons that they give are problematic, but I do understand that Black women are taught a certain set of messages that other women aren't taught. I know that Black women are taught to focus on separate things where other women aren't taught to focus.
I
The
think
burden. Mhm.
Black women are thought to focus on certain things that when other women do it, it's completely fine and they do well. And Black women are penalized for the same traits that when other women employ, they become extraordinarily successful at business and in relationships. It's only at Black women that you striving and being ambitious is seen as masculine. And it's
Mhm.
kind of ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I do think prioritizing relationships should be important. I just don't like whatever. I
Well,
just don't like
like
it
I
because
said, I just think it's a walking chewing gum situation. I just think
yeah.
that like it's just better. I'm gonna tell you like I'm gonna just have a moment of vulnerability right now and just be really honest. Like when I was married, and you know, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was able to cultivate my career. I was able to do big things because I had a partner that supported that and was able to meet the financial obligations so that I could achieve that. I would never have been able to achieve those things had that not been available to me.
Oh my God, I forgot this one guy in my class in law school that his wife was pay. Yeah, his wife. No, sorry, his wife was it. This was, oh, sorry, you messed. I completely messed this up. So there was this lady in law school. The law program, all of it was being paid for by her husband. And she said she had paid for her husband to go to med school, or they'd worked together. And now he's supporting her to go through law school because they both, one is now a doctor and one is a lawyer. And I thought, oh my God, that is such a great relationship. Like he went to law school, he went to med school, you guys had a child, you stayed at home, you both worked. He is now a doctor and then you are now in law school and he's paying for it. Like this man is investing in you becoming educated. Meanwhile, we're over here talking about your education don't matter and it
Doesn't
makes you
matter.
masculine.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
we
This
know
is
that it
foolishness.
does. Listen,
It's a foolishness.
the most elite men, the most sought after men want a woman who has equally remarkable traits. They want to create a legacy. They
Yeah.
want they want to produce
At every
exceptional children.
at every single firm gala that I've ever been to, 4 years now, 3 or 4 years, most of the men in their partners and everyone alike, when they're bragging, the humble brag is what their wife does. The
Yes.
wife does
The
the
what
same
your
thing.
wife does is the absolutely.
I,
Absolutely. And these
this
men
is not
trust
where
and
I
believe.
become radicalized on YouTube. When I heard like men talking about how women education, you don't have enough money to be talking about people's education don't matter. You
I
just
know.
don't.
I mean, listen. I like this, and it's the same thing when I go to these galas. It's the same thing. Like these men brag about their wives being successful too. They're not just like, oh, I married this. Like, really successful men are kind of embarrassed to like if they're around a group of say 5 guys and all their wives are accomplished, and then the one guy says, oh, I met my wife at McDonald's through the McDonald's drive-through. How do you think that's going to go over?
No, right, and it's unfortunately really elitist.
It
Um,
is.
so I think that when you said this is why I don't fully blame system, it's a cultural problem when men are so blatantly saying, "Oh, education don't matter, and
Right.
you are too masculine if you have a job." It's like, all right, girl, like I'm
Right.
I'm
And
not
and,
doing,
and, and
I'm
and if the
exhausted.
men say education doesn't matter, it makes sense that they're not, only 36% of them are actually looking for
And
full
on
sex.
that note, good night.
I know, seriously. So I got a few announcements here. You guys make sure that you are subscribed to Themis's channel. Themis, can you please put the link in your channel? And can you tell everybody like what you've got going on? Because I know you've got some debates going on. You got some other things going on. Like what you got going on?
So
You busy?
I am really busy. So my channel is Themis and Thoth. I talk about cultural issues generally. I add a lot of politics in there. So that's generally what I do. I do debates. Currently, we are going to start a debate tournament. We already started. I'm about to email the contestants. Please come watch that. The winner is going to be given $1,000.
What?
And then, yeah, we are doing monthly seminars. So for the last year, we started. So every month we do a seminar where we're talking about how to get into universities, how to do well in universities, how to improve your credit. We did that. All of these are free. We do it every single month. And we do a Zoom link so people sign up, you come and we talk. I get people, speakers, people I know, my friends, to come in and share their information and you can pick their brains. We do a lot of things over there. We do book clubs every other Saturday
Oh, I
where I
love it.
come on privately and we talk about the books that we.
What
It's
book
a
are you?
lot.
What book are you guys doing now?
We
Currently?
just finished today, actually. We just finished Thick at 12 o'clock. It's an essay by Dr. Carter, a book of essays by Dr. Carter, and we read it and we finished it today. It was a really, really good book. Now I'm going to try to get the author to come and do an interview. But yeah.
Not you, Themis, trying to like enrich your community and stuff. Not you.
Trying. I am.
Not you with the work operating on an internal locus of control. Not you doing that. What?
That's the link to the channel. But yeah, and you come on, so we should have more conversations. So
Oh,
yeah.
listen, listen. I may join the debate so I can win $1,000. Listen, okay.
Um,
Listen, I'm trying to start a start a new business. $1,000 could give me, lots of product. Anyway, so that I can resell. Okay, so what's going on with me right now? Just so you know, Themis, and everybody who's listening here, I am coming back. Themis, is it okay if I share with people that you have been asking me to come back to YouTube
yeah,
for
yeah.
a long time?
We may divulge our conversation privately
Yeah.
once you don't tell too
And
much.
for a while, I was like, hell no, hell no. Um, so I am returning on a very limited basis. I am very grateful that my core fan base has missed me. I have missed you guys too. But I want to tell you that there's a fundamental change in the way I'm going to be operating on YouTube. I am not interested in the mess. I'm not interested in the backbiting. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in going after anybody. I'm not interested in battling anybody. Like the main reason that I want to do this is so that we can move the conversation forward. I've been talking a lot about transcendence. I've been talking about yes, these certain conversations that we have are necessary, but we have to at one point move. I understand the anger part of where Black women are coming from. I want you to understand that I always have empathy and sympathy for that, but at some point it's time to move from that. You guys actually have many of you have revealed that you're ready for that. If you guys look at my community page, for those of you who took the transcendence quiz, I don't know if you guys have done that yet. I'm going to put the link in the chat. This is just a quiz to see where you are in your journey of enlightenment as a Black woman? 73% of you said, you know what, I'm ready to move on from just talking about, I'm ready to move on from the typical, okay, this is why we're here, we're so angry, but now let's start thinking about ourselves and working on ourselves. And 73% of you guys said, you're ready. So I want to start moving the conversations forward. That's going to be the focus of my channel. The focus is not going to be on what the fuck did Black men do today. It's going to be about our enrichment and moving us forward as Black women who want a better life and live well. If those of you are new, we were talking about Black women, why they're not finding their mates in college. If you go to getpinkpill.com, which is in the description box, I created an entire course on this based on all the things that we talked about today that I did not do. It's value priced because, when you're a student, we all broke. Okay. So if you go to getpinkpill.com, you'll be able to get an overview of all my courses. But the Pink Pill for College, if you are in college or you know somebody who's in college and you want them to take advantage of the networking, you should absolutely do that. I incorporated my training as a business etiquette and protocol consultant into the Pink Pill for College so that you could get a jump start on things that I didn't know. When I was in college, I thought hors d'oeuvres was pronounced hors d'oeuvres. Okay. Did I tell you the Themis, have you heard the story? Okay, I'm gonna tell you the story. So
By the way, one caveat, righteous anger is good. Go ahead.
Righteous anger is good. So let me just tell you though. So I was seeing my ex at the time I was in college, and I was going to an event from the Junior Public Relations Society of America because I wanted to be a publicist. It was a mixer. There was going to be drinks and appetizers. And it was at UCLA, which was not far from where he lived in Beverly Hills. I was talking to him on the phone, telling him I was on my way. And he was like, okay, do you think you're going to want to have dinner or anything? Or you think, And I said, no, sweetie, you don't have to like make me dinner or anything because the invitation says that there will be cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And he said, what? I said, what? He said, what? And I was like, well, they said they're going to have hors d'oeuvres. He's like, you mean hors d'oeuvres? Now, could you imagine, Themis, can you imagine if I would have gone into that place, no matter how I was dressed, no matter, whatever, how smart I was, and I said, hi, I'm Chris. Oh my goodness, this looks, those hors d'oeuvres look great. Or where are the hors d'oeuvres? Wow, I'm going to have to make these hors d'oeuvres at home. Like, I cringe, but I didn't. So when I teach these things, I'm not teaching it from like, oh, I just woke up like this. No, I did not wake up like this. And it's so funny because it's not like I hadn't heard hors d'oeuvres before. I don't know. I don't even know what happened. But listen, he corrected me gently. And in that moment, I was like, there's so much I need to know. There's so much that I need to empower myself with that I'm going to do the work. I didn't get upset at myself. I was embarrassed, but I wasn't, it was just a slight thing. But then it was a wake-up call to me that this element of refinement is important. This element should not be neglected. We don't take it that seriously. We think it's not important. It absolutely is important. Because if I would have gone in there and said that, what do you think would have happened, Themis? What if I would have went to, like, what if you would have taken me to one of your law firm parties and I was like, oh, where are the hors d'oeuvres? And I said in front of your your bosses.
You would have been fine, except I would have died every single day after that. Because they would remind me every single day.
See, and I would have made a negative impression on you. I wouldn't have been a good impression on you to like move you forward with your advancement in networking, because they would be like, who are your friends? Who are you hanging with? They don't even know how to pronounce hors d'oeuvres. Like, what we need to be reevaluating,
You would have
this
had to
whole
actually
famous thing.
agree, because as soon if you did that with me, I would be like, yeah, well, she's actually from Jamaica, and so
And that's how they say it.
your whole backstory would have to change.
Oh my goodness. Somebody asked, you weren't a debutante in high school? Oh, most certainly not. I was not a debutante
Well, you didn't go to
in
the
high
debutante
school.
balls and things.
I mean, all of these things I learned because I realized I needed to learn. So there's that. If you guys are interested in taking the Transcendence quiz, 1,000 of you have done it already. Do it again. Don't do it again, but I'm saying, if you haven't done it, you should do it. It'll give you some clarity. It also gives you, we're also using it to field whether you might be a good candidate for the Pink Pill Underground. So if you go through the quiz and you score highly, and you're ready for that next step, you should click the link and see if you might be a good fit for the underground. The first time I did this, which was last week, 56 of you filled out the application for the Pink Pill Underground after the Transcendence quiz. So I'm going to be doing a Transcendence coaching session. Be on the lookout for that. We're going to be talking about what that means. We're going to be talking about, we're going to address a little bit about the trauma, but we're going to be talking about moving on. So take the quiz. If you've already filled out the application, check your emails. I will be in touch with you. And finally, this watered body care is the thing. Water Body Care is the first multi-step program specifically for women of color that gives the same benefit of what is in the top facial care for the body. And your girl here created it. So I would consider it a personal favor if you guys would go over to wateredbodycare.com. Themis, we got to get you on Water Body Care.
Oh, I made my order. I want to order it myself, and I did make my order.
You did?
I did.
I didn't think I sent out 10 shipments on I think it was Thursday. I didn't see it, so I'll have to go back and look.
But when I do get it, I will be doing an unbiased review. So I would prefer to buy it myself. And when our friendship ends, after I drag the no, I will review it though. I will review it.
Yeah, and those of you who are in the Pink Pill Underground, I launched a program this month. If you are part of the underground, if you haven't seen this yet, but I'm offering the complete water body care system for a discounted rate for the Pink Pill Underground, and even more discounted rate if you participate in the review program. I'm trying to get a lot of reviews, whether they're video or written, prior to our launch. And right now, the only way you can access the actual formulations and the product is if you're part of the Pink Pill Underground. So if you guys are listening from the Pink Pill Underground, check your emails to see if you got a notification of where you can get it for like half the price of what it's going to be in exchange for giving your honest review. So Themis, you got to give them your honest review. We gonna do this. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a great conversation.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. What's the next video? What's the next discussion you're having?
We are having actually don't know, because every other week someone else, our podcast is going to be Wednesday. We do a live podcast. And so Kay is going to be coming up with a topic for Wednesday, and I don't hear about it until Sunday.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. And yes, the Pink Pill channel has been resurrected. But we're going in a different direction. Themis, all of your lobbying has paid off. So, but listen, it's a whole different mindset. Like if you come here for the mess, I've transcended the mess. We're just not doing that anymore. But if you're here for enrichment, you're ready to move on, I'm right here with you, and let's go. Let's just go. All right, sweetie. Thank you
Bye.
for joining.
Thank you for having me. Thank you to the chat. You guys are so loving. I appreciate you guys and the love that you shared. So thank you guys. Bye.
Oh wait, you guys, I have to show you this view. Can you see this?
Yes, that is
Oh
beautiful.
my God! Isn't that
That is
beautiful?
beautiful. Yes.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay. All right,
Go
guys.
to Renaissance. I will see you on tour with Beyonce. Okay. Bye.
Bye. Pinkies up, everybody.